The moose is in the supermarket.
Do I really have to say this?
Yeah, it's kind of the protocol here.
Oh. And he tends to hang around the soup aisle. What's with all the secret passwords, pony boy? I thought we were working together.
Yeah, but it's just easier if we're not seen together.
And that's why you dragged us to a back alley on Tatooine?
Yeah, pretty much. Everyone hates Tatooine. It's a planet made entirely of sand.
I mean, it's up. Look, you got the goods or not, pony boy?
Yeah, I got 'em. Well, let's see yours first.
Oh, you're killing me, pony boy. Fine. Coordinates to the Disney shipyards. I held up my end of the deal, now how about yours?
Yeah, okay, we could do business. This is everything you requested, and for the record, Bodacious Space Pirates, totally underrated.
Whatever you say, pony boy.
What are you gonna do with all this reference material anyway?
I got something big in the works I'm cooking up on the streaming platform.
Well, you know I'll be there to review it.
Why? You didn't review The Mandalorian?
Not yet, Mickey. Not yet. Listen, I gotta get going. I'll text you when we're ready to begin our assault.
You really want me in on this one, don't you?
Yeah. Like you said, we're working together. Okay, our mutual friend has everything that he needs. I gave him a significant portion of your anime collection.
Are you kidding me? How much?
Oh, quite a lot, actually. You're gonna be stuck watching Girls Bravo and Promised Neverland Season 2 for a while. Come on, we gotta leave. You know I hate this place.
Everything all right back there?
More or less. We got what we needed, and he's doing something for the streaming platform.
Still working on something, huh?
Yep. Get us back to base. We need to go over this data.
Let's go!
Hello, my name is Hunter, the movie reviewing horse, because when it comes to cinema, humans cannot be trusted. It's called Star Horse, not Star Pony. We gotta be on brand. Oh, hey! Star Wars! It's been a while since we visited that galaxy far, far away. Mostly because things have been pretty quiet when it comes to Star Wars releases recently. Yes, we all watched Mandalorian, and we loved it. Finally, some good fucking Star Wars. Recently, Kathleen Kennedy, the bitch herself, announced like 9 new projects for Star Wars, of which the only real takeaway for me was a Rogue Squadron movie. I actually couldn't get into The Bad Batch. Like, I gave it a bunch of episodes, but I couldn't get into it. I don't think anyone asked for Lando Star Wars, and Obi-Wan Kenobi was just gonna be a Star Wars story before you royally fucked those movies up. Ahsoka is probably going to be playing off of her story from The Mandalorian, kind of like the Book of Boba Fett is gonna be playing off of its story in The Mandalorian. And then way up here in the corner, you might have missed this, actually, we had this thing called Star Wars Visions. Anime Star Wars. This could either be a really good idea, or it could backfire horribly. Either way, go ahead. Impress me. Visions sets out to answer a question that people have had for decades. What happens when we combine Star Wars with the unstoppable power that is Japanese animation? They said outright that none of these were gonna follow any kind of continuous story, but they got some really big studios in on this. Studio Trigger, Kinema Citrus, Studio Colorido, Production IG, you know, just to name a few of my favorites. I mean, come on, Science Saru worked on this? You know I love Keep Your Hands Off Isaacin, right? All of the great anime studios aside, though, I'm not entirely sure I want Disney anywhere near my anime. I don't really want Disney near anything that I love, actually. Remember what they did to Star Wars? And Owl House? I mean, I will fully admit, I have been after Disney for a lot of stuff lately. Artemis Fowl, their live-action movies. We're even doing our own Star Wars film just to see if we can do better. Teaming up with Disney is like signing your channel up with Machinima, except definitely 1000% worse. And I'm familiar with pretty much every single one of these companies that they're working with. If they screw this up, there truly is absolutely no hope for the Star Wars franchise. And I pretty much abandoned all hope immediately after reviewing The Rise of Skywalker. I gave it a 6, but I fucking hate that movie. Now, rather than tell you whether or not these are all outright good or outright bad, instead, since we have 9 very different stories here, we're gonna go over them briefly, individually, one at a time, in order. This is the literal definition of a mixed bag, and this is the only effective way we're gonna do this review. Visions Episode 1 opens very strong, with Kamikaze Doga being the studio behind this. These are the guys behind JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and out of all 9 of these episodes, this one is easily one of the best. The whole episode has this sort of samurai old-style looking filter over it, which might alienate some people, but you get used to it. Pretty much the only thing that has color in this are the few lights that you see, the blaster bolts, and the lightsabers, which is just a really fucking kick-ass idea. It also does a good job at quelling my fears immediately that these were gonna shy away from the violence. Because once they start shooting in this, oh my god! That is a probe droid with samurai swords, ladies and gentlemen. And then the lady, she comes out, she's like, you son of a bitch, and starts blocking all the bullets with her spinning lightsaber. And then this guy who's been hanging out on top of a hill is like, fix my droid, I'ma go take care of this. And then they're fighting on top of a log. Like, holy shit. Finally, some good fucking lightsaber fights. You have no idea how much I've missed this. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, R2 comes out with a fucking straw hat. He's got rocket boosters on, and he runs right into the center of town, and he starts to shoot fucking missiles. And the fucking missile trails all going off, and oh, so good. This is like the best way you could have possibly opened this series. The only thing that wasn't great about this is that when it ends, it leaves us with a lot of questions, which is actually a problem that comes up a lot in Visions. Like, why is there a Sith hunting other Sith? Who the hell was that Sith that we just killed? Why does your R2 unit shoot fucking missiles? But even with all of these problems, this one was easily one of my favorites of the bunch. Just a solid way to start things off. It's absolutely brilliant. It was like Disney actually let these guys off the leash and let them create something amazing. And if that's how the rest of these are gonna go, this might actually be alright. Tatooine Rhapsody opens up on a thunderous note. The Clone Wars are at their peak, and this young Padawan is scared shitless, and he gets separated from literally everybody else. And then he ends up in a guitar shed? And then starts a band? What happened to the Clone Wars? Okay, everybody calm down. This one was actually kind of fun. They even got the actual real actor for Boba Fett to come in and stand in for anime Boba Fett, which is just really kick-ass. And even though it got me really excited for the Clone Wars, the rest of this is still actually pretty good. Honestly, out of all of these, this one was one of the more visually impressive ones. And even though this is the shortest episode on this list, I actually had a lot of fun with it and got invested in a lot of these characters. By the end of it, I wanted to know more about them. And the whole thing ends with a fucking rock concert, which is just a really kick-ass sequence from start to finish. I will go on record and say Studio Colorido was one of the lesser-known studios on this list, and I'm not familiar with as much of their work as I probably should be, because this put them on my map. I will say if you're listening to the music number in English, you're doing it wrong, though. That's it. That's the one complaint that I have, and I can't even complain about it because Japanese music never translates well to English.
Are you ready to go?
The Twins answers a very difficult question that many of us have had for years. That question being, what happens if we let Studio Trigger run around in the Star Wars universe? Well, you get a special kind of anime where everything about it is bad. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how this one ended up so bad. And Trigger was the studio I was excited for the most. The first dialogue we get out of this one is a great big exposition dump about how these two are twins born of the dark side in Palpatine's cloning lab or something. Or how we taped two Star Destroyers together to create a super laser that saps the power from a Kyber crystal, and both of their Darth Vader suits, what the fuck? And this will somehow give them the ability to destroy a planet, because once again, we need to trivialize the ability to destroy a planet down to the size of a Star Destroyer. Boy Twin steals the crystal and goes rogue and makes his way to a hangar with an X-Wing, is that an Eta-2? Before I can get answers to any of these questions, he's taking his helmet off, stealing an X-Wing, and then we're fighting on the outer hull of a Star Destroyer. And then her helmet gets blasted off in the vacuum of space. And then we get more exposition because we needed more stuff explained, but nothing that we actually have questions about. The lightsabers turn into whips. She turns into General Grievous. He gets thrown into space, caught by an X-Wing, and then cuts the Star Destroyer in half before doing a Holdo maneuver. You know, the Holdo maneuver. That one thing from Last Jedi that broke all the physics of Star Wars, left all of the fans pissed off, and opened up a million plot holes. And he crash lands and wakes up on Tatooine because being out in the vacuum of space for 10 minutes and a Holdo maneuver is definitely something you walk away from. And then swears to get his sister back. What a shit show. I get that these aren't canon, but there are some of these that I might want to be canon. This is one that I don't want to be canon at all. This is non-canon to me forever. Studio Trigger is clearly too bombastic for Star Wars. If you're into that kind of thing, you might enjoy the Twins, but I didn't. This was actually probably the worst of the bunch. I can only hope that this was a fluke for Studio Trigger and this will not affect anything they do moving forward. These are the same guys that did Kill la Kill and Witch Academia. I honestly expected way better, and this one was a huge disappointment. I went into Village Bride with pretty decent expectations. This is coming from the people that made Made in Abyss and Rising of the Shield Hero. But unlike those two shows, which are two of my favorites, they decided that their approach to this was going to be as slow as the frame rate would allow. Unlike the last two episodes, this one is very slow and very laid back. Village Bride does, however, make up for this a little bit with its incredibly precise and very carefully crafted visuals. Sometimes the visuals in this are simplistic and simple, and other times it just makes you sit back and say, holy crap, somebody drew that. The story's not anything too crazy. These two are getting married, but she's being sacrificed to a group of oddly well-equipped bandits. And there's a Jedi visiting them named F. Just F. And she's gonna come in and stop them, I guess. It's never really explained what she's doing there, but the Jedi always seem to follow the path of vigilante justice. And that's why we get this great big fight scene at the end. Which was honestly a bit anticlimactic. The old guy we've been hanging out with this whole time fires off 4 or 5, maybe 6 shots, kills a couple of droids, and then just sort of stands at the top of a hill. Then he throws his hat and it rolls into the ship and the ship explodes. And then after that, the fight's basically over because all the droids shut down and the mercenaries all run away. And then for the big bad, we just do a really fast anime sword slash, which is fun. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like they could have done a lot more. They certainly had the time for it. This was the longest one so far. Maybe if it picked up the fucking pace, because I feel like there's more of a story to this character that they just didn't have the time to flesh out. And we don't know right now if Disney is going to commit to continuing any of these stories. This isn't the first episode to do this, and it's starting to scare me. I mean, it works. It's beautiful. And it is an improvement over the twins, but I don't know. I feel like they could have done more with it. The Ninth Jedi suffers from the same problem that the last episode did, in that it doesn't have enough time to really tell a complete story. That said, this was easily one of the best episodes. This guy gathers a whole bunch of Jedi so he can try and rebuild the Jedi Order after the Empire came in and fucked everything up. But the story follows the daughter of a famed sabersmith who is kind of a Mary Sue, but I feel like if we had more time to get to know her, she wouldn't be. This one's also full of clever little ideas like lightsabers that change color depending on your force alignment, and then all of these guys turn on the lightsabers and they're all fucking red, like oh ho ho. And then finally, after about an eternity, Visions delivers on what we were promised, which was some kick-ass anime lightsaber duels. Some extremely interesting characters, some fantastic visuals, and a speeder bike chase that makes that one scene from Rise of Skywalker look like a fucking joke. Which it was, but this was just so much better. Honestly, this was one of the best sequences of the entire collection. It is absolutely incredible, and I would expect nothing less from the same guys that brought us Standalone Complex. Ninth Jedi does a really good job at building its own foundation, but the biggest problem with it is when it ends. Because I feel like this is just like the build-up and the beginning to some grander adventure. We've established a really kick-ass set of characters and an awesome setup, and we're ready to go on this adventure, and that's where it rolls the credits. And I want to go on that adventure! This is the most frustrating kind of story because we don't know where the story's gonna go from here, and we don't even know if they're gonna continue. We even came up with an original ship design, which is more than the Rise of Skywalker gave us. But again, all things considered, this was easily one of, if not the best episode. Because by the end of it, I wanted more. I want this to be the beginning of something incredible, because if it isn't, I guarantee I'm not the only one who's gonna be upset. If this was a full-length movie that had time to explore every single one of its characters, it would have been a masterpiece. I guarantee it. If you're not impressed by Village Bride, then this isn't gonna impress you either. T0B1, or Toby, easily stands out amongst the rest given its incredibly interesting art style, which is wasted with its whitewashiness. Everything in this episode is white, and it takes place entirely on a desert planet. Oh, good, because there aren't a million of those already in Star Wars. But the good news is this guy, our knockoff Dr. Light with no arms, wants to make it not a desert planet by terraforming it. So I guess that's good. He goes about this by creating a bunch of droids, which includes the most annoying main character this series has to offer. Like, oh god, this is the character we're supposed to be rooting for the next 15 minutes? He looks like a mix between Mega Man and Astro Boy, which does not actually make for a good combination. This stupid kid dreams of becoming a Jedi, finds a T-16 Skyhopper, accidentally turns on the radio and calls for a Jedi to come pick him up, which accidentally alerts the Empire and gets everyone on the planet killed. Because it turns out our armless Dr. Light here is secretly a Jedi who's been hiding out, because there's no safer place to hide in Star Wars than a desert planet. You say you're hiding out on a desert planet in Star Wars, they ask which one. I mean, the Sith were nice enough to not show any blood and bury him under a stone cairn. Despite this, Toby goes back to terraforming and actually finishes terraforming. And then that same Sith guy from earlier comes back for absolutely no reason. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, it switches over to being fucking awesome! Before immediately going over to an exposition dump. And then back to more awesome! I don't know where this kid learned to use a lightsaber, but it does lead to some really, really good fight sequences. Cause like, Toby gets his hand skywalkered, and so he rips his own arm off and goes full psychotic mode. Like, holy shit, look at this! The intro, the build-up, the Dr. Light knockoff, none of it matters in the shadow of the fucking fight sequence in this episode. If the first half of this episode got its shit together, this could have been a masterpiece. Unfortunately, he flies off in a T-16 Skyhopper, so we'll probably never see him again, because it'll probably burn up in an atmosphere. Sorry to disappoint everybody. Okay, we let Studio Trigger back in the room so they could try to redeem themselves, and they came up with probably the most boring one so far. It's set a couple centuries after the death of Darth Bane, and it follows a Jedi Master and his Padawan as they seek to try my patience. I'm dead serious, this was the slowest one. Every 3 seconds we have to stop and explain what we're doing and maybe quietly debate what we're about to do. And the resolution to all of these quiet little debates are, yes, very well, we will do that then. I think part of my problem is that I forgot that devoted Jedi were so incredibly boring. Eventually we do get to fight this little midget guy, but his fight is more nyah and nyah, and you know, instead of the wha-pa-pa-pa-pow, which we've been getting. I mean, on its own, the Elder isn't too bad, and it's definitely an improvement over their last attempt at Star Wars, but It feels like this is a small segment of a much larger story that's already happening. We don't have any context as to what that larger story is, and I feel like if we dug into it just a little bit, there might be a really good mystery to solve here. This is the same problem we ran into with the Ninth Jedi. If we just had more time, we might have something great. It's like Disney is trying to step out into the ocean that is anime, but doesn't want to get its feet wet. And that's why a lot of these stories are left off as cliffhangers or small parts of a much larger story that we don't know if they're going to pursue. But also, I think part of me wanted them to just do more and be more bombastic than this. Not as bombastic as the twins, but come on! This is the guy that directed Gurren Lagann and Foolie Cooley. Not to mention, you're post-Darth Bane, and a lot fewer fans are gonna get upset with anything that you do during that era. You're allowed to go a little bit insane. Just maybe the twins was a little too insane. What Trigger really needs to do is find some kind of middle ground between their two episodes here. I feel like if they could manage that, then we might have something. We need brand new animal levels of insanity, not kill-la-kill levels of insanity. I know you have a problem with not going off the rails crazy, Trigger, but come on. This was way too big of a step back. Lop and Ocho was another one of the best ones in this collection, and not just because it stars this adorable rabbit girl. This one hits really hard. It's actually kind of depressing, but I love the found family trope so much. And this one likes to ask the big questions, like what is family? How much does family matter? And what happens when the Empire fucks with family so hard we risk Vin Diesel showing up? The story is easy enough to follow. The Empire is exploiting this planet for resources. Ocho thinks that this is a good thing because it'll help them modernize a little bit better, but their father doesn't want the Empire here and thinks that they're bad, which they are. He's totally in the right here. And Lop is caught in the middle and kind of has to pick a side. And of all the episodes we have so far, this one actually has a pretty decent backstory going on. There's also a lot of really good visuals going on here. Geno Studio is the newest studio on this list, and I'm not familiar with any of their stuff. I mean, the big fight they have at the end speaks for itself. And you may have noticed a pattern here, but I am watching Star Wars Visions mostly for the fight sequences. And lightsaber katanas. Motherfucking lightsaber katanas. I mean, if you don't love that, you have no soul. Now, Lop and Ocho as it is fantastic, but I feel like if it had more time to devote to character development, maybe a training montage, it could have been even greater. Especially that training montage, because this is not the first time someone has picked up a lightsaber for the first time in this series and immediately knew how to kick more ass than the gods. That's not to say I don't want more of this, because I absolutely do. I wanted more of Lop and Ocho when Lop and Ocho rolled the credits. And it was another episode that felt like we were getting geared up to go on a great big grand adventure across the galaxy. And then we didn't. And we still don't know if Disney is going to pursue any of these stories, and it's extremely frustrating. All that said, I still love this one. Fun fact, did you know Star Wars has always had rabbit people? But I don't suppose you stopped to do your research before you bashed it, did you? Your move, haters. Akakiri, or Red Fog, opens very strong with a very good setup. We see our Jedi main character effortlessly chop down a bunch of bandits, and then we learn that he has a troubled past. And he's here to help this girl and her two friends against her dark side wielding aunt. This setup is amazing, but everything else during the execution falls flat on its face. The setup is slow. We spend about 6 minutes of this 14-minute episode traveling with little to no conflict. At one point, it seems like one of the guys gets stuck and we have to leave him, but literally 5 seconds later, he's back and he's fine now. When we finally do get to meet our Sith antagonist, and it looks like we're about to get a really, really good lightsaber fight, like what they did with Toby, it's immediately cut short when both of these two idiots get kidnapped. Then they do some weird artsy stuff that I still haven't figured out. Honestly, I should have watched this one again. And he accidentally kills his girlfriend, so he switches over to the dark side to save her. And unlike Anakin Skywalker, this actually works. Man, Anakin got chipped on that dark side deal. And then he goes with her and they fly off. Of all of the endings, this one is like the least satisfying. Once again, it feels like the start of something bigger, but we still don't know if they're actually gonna pursue any of these stories. And this was the last one. Yeah, that's a really great note to end out your series with. But yeah, that's Star Wars Visions. This kind of sucked, actually. Like I said, it feels like Disney wanted to wade out into the ocean that is anime, but didn't want to get its feet wet. That, or this is just a small taste of some masterpiece off in the future that they haven't even considered yet. Because most of these have either cliffhangers or they're very open-ended with their endings. Because a lot of these feel like the setup to some grander adventure that we can't have because Disney doesn't want to throw money at it. And at the end of the day, we don't know what they're going to do next. Are they going to continue any of these stories? Are we just going to get more stories with different studios? What? You can't just create a setup and then do nothing with it, except Tatooine Rhapsody. That one rounded itself off pretty good. I feel like if they really wanted to, Lucasfilm could throw money at all of these studios and say, make a 24-episode anime and we'll put it on Disney+, just to give them an anime lineup. And if they do that, that would be incredible. I would actually use Disney Plus for more things other than old episodes of Amphibia and Owl House. That is a billion-dollar idea, Disney, and I will let you have that one. I suppose if it left me wanting more, it wasn't a total failure, but this wasn't enough. Blah. My name is Hunter, and this...
Attention all Imperial forces in the galaxy at large! I have an announcement!
Wait, what is he doing? Why is he broadcasting on an open frequency?
I am taking a stand against the Disney Empire! For the past year, I have been helping the rebels! Someone told me to put 20 girls in Star Wars, and I did it! This is only the beginning! A new war is upon us! Many of you may choose not to follow me after the crimes I committed against the fandom! But if we work together, we can put an end to this madness and put the power of the franchise back in the fans! Arise!
He knows we're not ready, right?